Me today. Hopefully, you're waking up with the Lord and starting the day out with the yoke cinched up tight because trials and tribulations will come your way no matter what. And we need to be prepared for when they come. And we're hoping that with this program I put together each morning that it helps you through whatever your desires are of that day, and hopefully it um, what would you say, invigorates you or gets you excited about the gospel, so that you're uh, can't wait to reach out to others to tell them what you've learned. Let's do an audio check real quick. The audio check is done, and so again, share, like this video, and subscribe to the channel, and go ahead and leave a comment if you get a chance. And again, the viewership is not as increased, not at the level I'd like to see it. But again, I'm doing this because I am getting something out of this day-to-day conversation with at least one individual, if not more. And I'm excited about getting up in the morning, each morning, to for myself to actually get engaged with the Come Follow Me curriculum. It's not enough just to um, read through it and say I got done, that I've actually, did a little bit, but we really need to be feasting on the words of the Lord each day so we can um, obtain a real relationship with Him through His prophets and apostles. Uh, again, you can reach me on Facebook, Arthur A.J. Hill. All these are linked, of course, at the in the comment section. Also, A Latter-day Saint on Fire is my Instagram and another YouTube channel. And also, I have Paul and AJ's Ex-Mormon Files, which is some heated discussions about the gospel. Um, and then you can find me on For the Love of God Facebook group. So if you want to join me at any time, and again, I present this open forum that anyone could join me through Zoom so that they can make this programming a lot better. Because when I'm doing this on my own, I know that it's not a conversation um, that I'm really, really impacted by. I love having interaction. I talk about the gospel with as many people as I can, and again, this invigorates me. This gets me excited. I learn so much each day about the gospel that I'm going out and I'm actually letting people see. With history, it's a lot easier to talk about history of the church anywhere we go, so that because history doesn't have we're talking not talking about religion, we're talking about history. Boy, that word almost didn't come out. And we're talking about history, so there's no what would you say, uh um we're not crossing any lines when we talk about history. It's fascinating, the things that we were learning. Again, learning that Martin Harris was married to his first cousin. That's pretty, But then I was having that conversation yesterday with a person, and she says, and she's kind of like, "Ew, that's gross." And I said, "Well, Abraham was married to his half sister," and she said, "No way." And so I showed her from Google that that's the fact, you know. Well, and I was thinking about things, and if your standard, and we're not going to get into polygamy too much, but if your standard is you cannot, that Joseph Smith cannot be a prophet of God uh, because he was a polygamist, then it's then and you're making that standard, saying that God never commanded polygamy, and those who were practicing polygamy uh, are sinful, and therefore they cannot be of God, then how do you accept the Bible as the Word of God? Because Moses was a polygamist, all right? David was a polygamist. We know that. Solomon was polygamist. And there was many people out there that are writers in the Bible, probably that we can't answer to, but maybe the apostles were polygamists. We don't know. We don't have no records on them. And nobody would put that in there anyway because they would want to. They bleached the Bible, all right, to make it worthy of their standards. Again, the Europeans or the Romans were dead set against polygamy. So of course they would make sure that all these. I mean, they even make Mary um, a lily white woman all of her life that she never had any children by Joseph. All right, that the only child she has is Jesus, but yet the records show that she had other children. All right, and so again, their standard is uh, quite different. But I really enjoy going to my Catholic Bible study, and hopefully things occur today that allows me to do that. But I might have to be working 12 hours today again, and that might happen. But never know. Either way, but I enjoy the gospel, and I hope that I'm bringing forth content that people are truly enjoying, and they are that they're embracing this moment that they have in their life to actually engage of coming to the Lord in the morning with prayer and supplication, and actually engaging in dialogue with Him. And let me offer a prayer real quick while we get started. I didn't even have a prayer yesterday before I got started, and but anyway, let me have that prayer. Our Heavenly Father, we are so thankful for the time we have together to follow the prophets' counsel and learn from them, and to engage in the work that they have done, that they've set forth for us. And please help us to understand and to articulate the words that are written in the pages of the Come Follow Me curriculum, and that those words will penetrate our hearts and mind, and that we will be able to enjoy the day with the Lord. And we ask this name of Jesus Christ, amen. Anyway, let's get into this. Um, and I don't, hopefully people join me in time, but uh, I was, I made a statement yesterday and like to share some of the interaction that I'm having with those who, what would you say, are have cause or reason to, deny the prophetic calling of Joseph Smith. Let's share the sound. Uh-huh. All right. Let's go. So anyway, uh, this is what I wrote. Many of those who oppose the teachings of the Church of Jesus Christ seem to never attack the validity of the lost 616 pages of the Book of Mormon. Why do they not make the claim that the manuscript never existed? and this one, Hugh Barringer, he says, I think the reason that no one claims the 116 pages didn't exist is because, as the original hope and intent of those who stole it, Joseph Smith would recreate the document in order to show differences and cry fraud. By not creating the missing 116 pages, there is nothing to compare to. For many, this bolsters the claim Joseph Smith was a fraud. For those that believe, I think that it's a nothing burger. We may wish we had the 116 pages of the Book of Mormon, but it stands on its own. And again, here's the thought that came to my mind as I'm going through. Let me stop sharing because, once I've made a remark, I should stop sharing and get face back up there, my beautiful face. Okay. Anyway, what I'm looking at is this is their claim against Joseph Smith that he uh, invented this whole story, that he had already uh, prepared the Book of Mormon, that he would come already prepared, memorized every word of the Book of Mormon, uh, of and then would come to the table. And again, they said that they had a stack of something on the table, covered in a white or some kind of linen. They say that, but I mean, how can you deny that Emma Smith is carrying these plates all over, trying to dust and get them out of the way, and Lucy Mack Smith and Catherine and all these people, they're hefting these things, and they're pretty heavy, and they're 60 pounds according to them, and they're like, "No, there's an object in the room," so people are having to maneuver around that, and in some way, in some form. Again, there Joseph Smith has got his head in a hat, and he's reading the little card, the little crib notes that he has in the hat, of course, and he's got a little flashlight in there that he invented. And anyway, some pretty absurd ideas, but I mean, this is the extent you have to go to believe that Jesus, or excuse me, that Joseph Smith had pre pre-recorded basically on cards the Book of Mormon. And so he would have done that with 116 pages. And what what would have so if he had everything laid out of the 116 pages, then why would he not be able to go and rewrite the 116 pages that were lost and still in what would you say, and then put tuck them away? You know what I mean? Tuck them away, and then write the rest of the Book of Mormon as it stands today. And then go ahead and establish himself as prophet of God, the many followers that he has. I mean, he's got 25,000 followers. And then they absolutely trust everything that he's saying, most of them. And they're willing to move to Missouri and to Kirtland, Ohio. They're willing to endure the kind of abuse that the mobs are uh, that are willing to throw uh, all the godliness that they ever possessed out the window, and murder and rape and pillage the people and drive them from home to home. Okay, so if they're willing to endure all these things and still follow Joseph Smith, and then Brigham Young, and then cross the plains to Utah, they're willing to then all they have to do is bring out those 116 pages, say, here's more from Joseph Smith, and those, and because he had, obviously, why couldn't he rewritten the 116 pages? And then make that claim that that he rewrote these directed by the Lord, and that any other uh, it, because of the fraud and the abuse that the adversary had put upon him, that that they cannot accept any other work that is uh, that is brought forth that would, you know, you know, make that would be a fraud, because they've been lost and they've been altered, and therefore they're a fraud, and they would have believed him, right? But see, if he's not, if he doesn't have these this Book of Mormon prepared, that's all straight from his head, then you'd have to ask the question, how in the world does he come up with so much philosophy in a book and and absolutely 99% of the words that are written that are used from the Bible are one for one, all right? And yet he can and quoting uh, chapters of Isaiah while the scribe is there writing along. I mean, unless the scribe is in cahoots with him, but we can't, you can't claim that because again, they're not making any money from this. Their houses, their lives are being destroyed. Martin Harris is losing his wife because he's engaged with this work that he's doing with Joseph Smith. That's why he comes to the Joseph Smith many times, trying to get Joseph Smith to help him with his marriage by allowing him to have the manuscript so they can take it to her, you know, and all these things that are going on and that are destroying the the lives of the witnesses, but yet they still hang on for a long time. But again, so this is not making anybody money. This is destroying lives, and there's nothing to gain from them for this what would people would be calling a con. I mean, if they were swimming in money, I could absolutely understand that idea, but they're not. They're struggling all the time, and people are beating them out of every home, and the mobs are coming at them all the time. And they're having to move from this place to that place, and then Oliver Cowdery and another person is sent on a mission in the dead of winter to the Lamanites. I mean, they're demonstrating too much skin in the game with, again, the amount of reward they're getting from this is not anywhere close to the kind of effort they're putting forth. So anyway, you cannot say, so if Joseph Smith had a pre-prepared manuscript already in hand that he was using to to write the first 116 pages and the rest of the Book of Mormon, then he could have easily had the 116 pages written again sometime in the future. And then after establishing that, he could have said, well, see, here's more evidence of my prophetic calling. Whatever bolsters the claim of his prophetic calling would be exercised in some kind of game that they would be playing, especially when they go and do much of the rework of the book of the Bible. He's receiving revelation, he says, uh, to input into the Doctrine and Covenants. He does the Pearl of Great Price, right, with Moses and Abraham. So he's, again, for those who claim he's making all these different records to bolster his claim as a prophet of God, because he's trying to make some kind of financial gain and gain over of the females, and they are following it. Again, why not the 116 pages? Why not rewrite them? Why not create this elaborate story that would follow, that would again bolster his position as a prophet of God? All right. He's looking for every avenue, most of the antis are saying. So why not that? So anyway, let's go back to some of the comments that were made as I again. So he's a prophet of God. That's the bottom line. He was not able to um, he was not able to do any of the work that is in the Book of Mormon on his own or any other work. All right. That these things are way too complicated for somebody who is non-educated, right? And nobody's helping them. And Martin Harris is an antagonist towards him most of the time. But yet he continues to uh, involve himself in a work that he constantly demonstrates uh, that he is not um, locked in 100% that Joe Smith is actually doing what he says he's doing. But he knows something's going on. All right, here we go. Let's look at some more comments here. Okay, Daniel Ortner and me, we've had many of good videos that we've done together. Anyway, you can catch those. Uh, I probably don't have them all uh, on any of the YouTube channels, but I have some. Anyway, here's some of the comments that he makes, and then we go back and forth for a little bit, and then we'll probably continue on with the conversation. And so it says, he says, why would I claim that? Considering, okay, talking about the 116 pages, why would I claim that they never existed, is basically what he's saying. It would be really odd for Joseph and others to mention these lost pages if they didn't exist. So he's admitting that they do exist, all right? I don't see how their existence validates the book at all. Uh, Again, it's because of all the moving parts that are a part of this story, all the people that are involved in the story that demonstrates that Joseph Smith it was doing something that uh, uh, that there was too many witnesses that are not associated with what he's doing in the positive. Lucy Harris is not positive about the work, but she knows something's going on, and even receives revelation that she needs to help the cause, which brings us to which she goes to court, and she's trying to uh, 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 accuse Joseph Smith of fraud, even though that she's one of the contributors to the work that's being done. So now you have legal documentation that these people were involved with each other, and that even those who brought charges against Joseph Smith are actually joined in the efforts to bring the work of the Lord uh, uh, and unfold it before our eyes. Anyway, and then you have the Smith family, Hiram and Joseph Smith Sr. in 1824. They uh, again demonstrating trust in Martin Harris that when they working for him when they're working for him, they tell him about the story. I mean, this would jeopardize their relationship with Martin Harris. And they're trying to establish their own farm. And the way that they're trying to establish their own farm is to work for others so that they can get enough money to go ahead and purchase their own farm and go ahead and build it for their future. So what good reason would they have to um, tell Martin Harris of this story about Joseph Smith Jr. having these plates? All right, doesn't demonstrate good sound sense. Or it's not sound in its an business uh, conversation. Religion and politics don't mix. With when you're with your employer, especially in that kind of thing. But anyway, so again, there's so many moving parts. There's a lot of people involved, and it shows that Martin Harris is committed to Joseph Smith prophetic calling. That's why he says, Joseph, go to the Lord. And he trusts that the Lord is telling Joseph no twice. All right. And then Joseph goes to the Lord again, and because Martin Harris knows that Joseph Smith is going to the Lord. And then he's coming back to Martin and says, finally, and well, here's the stipulations. And because of the reaction that Martin Harris has when he loses the manuscript, it's it's not what would you say? It's typical of a human being that has lost everything that was of any value to him. I've lost my soul. I've lost my soul. And that kind of language is demonstrated, uh, a demonstration of somebody who's sinned against God in such a grievous way that he feels like he's it's that the next part of his existence is hell. All right. So anyway, so Daniel, so this is how I go ahead and answer Daniel. I said, how much have you studied the circumstances surrounding the lost 116 pages? Everything points to Joseph Smith as being a prophet of God in this sequence of events. First, you have Hiram and Joseph Smith Sr. telling Martin Harris about the golden plates. They tell him in 1824. Why would they tell him such a thing when they were working for him to earn enough money to start their farm? Would this have not jeopardized their employment with Martin Harris? That's what I was. And he says, and he's not even reading carefully. He just, he's reading it and then answering without really uh, looking at the text. You can see this right here. It says, I think the circumstances around the 116 pages are pretty damning evidence against Joseph Smith, actually. Why does Joseph telling Martin Harris about the plates in 1824 make it more likely that he is a prophet of God? Prophet. They were likely looking for neighbors who might be gullible enough to believe their story and found that that in spades in Martin Harris, who seems to have never met a religious claim or movement he didn't gravitate towards. Okay, so he stays with the church for 12 years or whatever, and then eventually, at the end of his life, he goes to Utah and joins up with the group again. Why? He lives comfortably. He lives comfortably where he's at, you know. He's not bothered by anybody, all right? He doesn't have to attach himself to anybody. I mean, there's plenty of religions around when he's 80 something years old. So why move west? But anyway, but he demonstrates here he didn't really read the text what I said, because it wasn't Joseph Smith Jr. who told Martin Harris about this. It was Joseph Smith Sr. and Hiram Smith who talked about this to Hiram Smith. All right, so a whole different set of circumstances here. The father and the brother believe the account which Joseph Smith had told them. And they're willing, again, we don't know if they told anybody else except for Martin Harris in actuality, because we don't have them talking about any other interaction about being employed by anybody else and having this conversation, because they were employed by other people. But I don't see anywhere in what in in the in their journals, and I haven't read all of them, of course, but that demonstrates that they were trying to be inviting to this to everybody about this situation, because you already have a situation where Joseph Smith is being harassed and Junior, and it's going to be hard enough for them to find work from people, because they're starting to get a reputation that is not the best in the community, but they still hold on to their reputation because they're hard workers. All right. And again, why are they trying to uh, farm when they have this elaborate story affixed? They could just continue to work for people and and benefit from their association to others, showing that themselves being uh, hardworking and industrious people, and they could have a better they could elevate themselves as being credible by their labor, and then demonstrate that to again in their uh, and then the story that they have uh, along with their labor that they've obviously, demonstrated to Martin Harris, who's only a mile away uh, as far as where the Smith's farm is, and then Martin Harris. So why would they involve themselves in farming if they're trying to establish a different scheme? You want to get yourself out there and be and labor for people for a while, and then you drop that idea on them so that they embrace the idea, and then you get more people involved. But it seems like they only tell Martin Harris about the plates. So anyway, this is my response to Daniel Ortner. It says it was Joseph Smith Sr. uh, and who told Martin Harris, and I forgot to put Hiram in there, about the plates. Again, what was the reason they told Martin Harris about the plates? They were working for him. They were building walls for his well and his basement. Why would the plates even come up? And again, the Smith family is trying to earn money to start a farm. And if they lose their reputation in the community, then they cannot accomplish what they want to accomplish. Also, if Martin Harris is a part of the con that people suppose it is, then he loses his reputation as a farmer and can no longer hire people and can no longer sell his goods to the local population. There's nothing to gain from his association with those who are trying to create an elaborate scheme to earn money or make money in any way. Martin Harris doesn't need money. He has an income that does not seem to neglect him of any of his needs, including those who he hires that he pays. And then his this is his response. Martin Harris extremely was extremely gullible. He joined uh, Many-Face and seemed to be equally convinced by them. He may have had that reputation already, which is why the Smiths told him. And again, and I responded to that. I was like, and I don't find it here for whatever reason. To refresh it real quick and see if I can bring it up. Uh, Maybe, but it looks like, let's see if we can, is there any more? Nope. Anyway, so that's the conversation that we had. Again, demonstrating the fact that people will subscribe to any idea that they can to wash away uh, realities that actually are there. And the reality is that Martin Harris uh, demonstrates that he is not gullible. He is very, what would you say? He demonstrates that he is not locked in on Joseph Smith's story, that somehow Joseph Smith is this incredible genius that he's sitting with, and that he has memorized everything that in the pages of the Book of Mormon. He demonstrates that by, and again, we're taking the journals, we're taking the accounts of people that were involved. And so that's all we have. It's history. And that's what we have. We have journals and we have other things that we can kind of point to. Again, Lucy going to court establishes there's a connection between these people. And again, there's other people outside of this that are part of part of the story that are demonstrating that they knew of the circumstances that were going on. Isaac Hale and his wife, they offered Joseph Smith and Lucy, I mean, excuse me, Emma Smith, a house so that they could have a place to live. And he was supposed to be farming the ground, and yet Joseph Smith is not. He's involved in this work, and there's a frustration there. Demonstrated by the Isaac Hale. So there's a lot of moving parts here that demonstrates there's something going on. And Joseph Smith is not do, being is not capable of earning a living, that he's actually getting help from other people during this time. So anyway, we have uh, Martin Harris, who's demonstrating that he's not gullible, that he is really, what would you say, he is very concerned about everything that is going on. Again, Lucy Harris says that her husband went east to go ahead and go convince some professors about the characters that were written on a piece of paper. So we have Lucy admitting and giving us what would you say, evidence by what she says that Martin Harris had a manuscript of the characters that that Martin Harris says that he went to Charles Anton and a couple of others to show them this, and again, the famous story of Charles Anton is that he sees it, he validates it, gives them a script saying these are ancient characters and then all of a sudden, whenever Charles Anton says, "Hey, I want to see these writings," and Martin Harris says, "Well, we cannot do that because we this is, you know, the God's work." And Charles Anton says, let me see that paper," and he get not let me see the authentication paper that I wrote, and he rips it up and throws it away, and um, and that's what Martin Harris says. But it's again, Martin Harris is going through a lot of painstaking moments in his life to uh, to validate the work that Joseph Smith is doing. You don't travel 100 miles or so to question professors unless you are concerned about the authenticity of Joseph Smith's work. And then he switches the rock out in a hat again, saying, and then Joseph Smith says, "Hey, it's as dark as Egypt in here, uh, and I cannot read. There must have been something I've done wrong." And then Martin Harris admits that he had switched the rock out again, saying, "There's people out there that are making these accusations, and I'm listening to them." All right, he's listening to them, and he wanted to make sure that Joseph Smith wasn't memorizing the words and then just again. But Joseph Smith doesn't have that in memory. He can't even he doesn't have any other languages that he can. My great grandfather knew 12 languages. All right, obviously he had a great memory. My father-in-law was an engineer basically at Northrop, was instrumental in the B-2 bomber and its production. He couldn't learn a language at all, but he had other skills that were just out of this world. Again, not everybody's geared to be able to memorize things in such a way that allows them to remember languages. And if Joseph Smith had such a great memory, then he would have been able to demonstrate that by learning other languages pretty easy. But he doesn't. So you can't say that he had a great memory. Uh, so again, Martin Harris has switched the rock out, and now Joseph Smith can't read the manuscript, can't read the words that are in his hat, and And that shows that Martin Harris uh, was what would you say, skeptical of the whole process. All right. And then when he takes the 116 pages to his wife, he has to, he's trying to find a way to get support outside of the Lord to help him with all the claims that are being made about Joseph Smith and about the work that's being done. All right. He needs support. And the only place he's getting that support is he can't find it with himself to trust Joseph Smith, that he needs others to support his uh, 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 his belief that Joseph Smith is actually a prophet of God. Then that's what happens to many of us. We're looking for conversions of others to the Church of Jesus Christ, hoping that they will strengthen our own testimony so that we can go ahead and uh, uh, find a little bit more comfort in the gospel. The gospel has never been a place where you're supposed to be comfortable. All right. Jesus Christ says, my gospel's not here to bring you peace. It's actually, my gospel will divide families. All right. Again, if you're locked in the gospel, you're going to find yourself being divided against a lot of people out there. But that doesn't mean the division has to bring about hate. But you know that it's not going to be a kumbaya all the time. There's some good families out there that have demonstrated a lifelong and uh, a generational connection to the gospel. But then you're finding those families sometimes having children that are falling away from the church. And they're like, what's going on? Again, because they're not truly locked in. They're not finding their own testimony that they can say to the world, if I was the only one that believed, that trusted these things that I'm telling you, that would be okay. I don't need others to, I don't need anybody else to support my position. But Martin Harris is demonstrating that he needs support from others in order to validate his his connection to Joseph Smith as being a prophet of God. Again, share, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and then go ahead and leave me a comment and let me know how things are going with this channel. And if you want to join me, excuse me, if you want to join me on Zoom and make this uh, 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 a place where you are enjoying the content, then please let me know through the comment section on this page or on this YouTube channel. Or you can reach me at my Facebook at Arthur A.J. Hill. It's all the links are in the notes down below. Also, uh, again, Facebook group For the Love of God. Also, my Instagram is a Latter-day Saint on Fire, and my uh, YouTube channel, another YouTube channel I have is a Latter-day Saint on Fire. The Also, you can find me on TikTok sometimes, and again, there's a lot of places you can find me. And all you have to do is, again, if you want to be help me create content that you enjoy, then come and join me on Zoom, and we can have, and then we can improve what we are presenting here today. Again, and I hope I'm not repeating myself too much, but I think there's some good, again, there's some more information that we're getting out of this because of a conversation I was having yesterday. Again, if you only read part of the, if you're only dabbling into the history of the Church of Jesus Christ, like Don Bradley, who left the church, then you're doomed to fail because you haven't, again, associated yourself enough to to the history of the church to really um, to really understand the particulars and the circumstances surrounding all the situations that are going on. And so don't be just what would you say? Don't just rub the surface of a book and think that you're going to be able to have a testimony. You have to consume the book and you have to demonstrate that you are willing to put forth the effort to have a testimony of the things that you desire. Okay. And if you don't desire the things that the church has to offer, and that's stability and success within your relationship with God and your family, and being one of a laborer, one who have of clean heart and mind and soul and body, then this is not for you. But if you desire those things and have an eternal relationship with your family, then this is the place to be. So anyway, let's go to, and I haven't set it up yet. So let's see if I can set this up real quick. Um, let's share the screen and get over there. You can follow along while I'm trying to uh, find the video. Let's see here. Uh, see if I can find it real quick here. Bradley. Okay. And let's see here. Let's see if I can find it on Scripture Central. Uh, holy smokes. Let's see here. Scripture Central. It's a good place to go. They have great people on there who are better at this than I am. All right. So we're going to watch this and
Sometime after receiving
we're going to go ahead and uh, what would you say? We're going to react to it as we're watching this video. Again, I'll probably uh, deem me copyright, but you know what? I'm not worried about that. What I'm concerned with is getting out content for those who uh, are really interested in the story of Joseph Smith and the love of God that is demonstrated by these people who went way beyond uh, the extremes of man to bring this gospel to us this day so that we can have joy. uh, that's what I'm more concerned about. This is not about making money. This is never, no matter what. Let's say that I was able to monetize. Every cent that would come through monetization would go directly uh, to a place where I could donate that money to, because I don't want that money. It's not mine. Everything that I do here is for the Lord. I am not here to make any money. I'm not here to uh, grow a great big fan base or anything like that. Everything I'm doing is like, I just want to share the gospel with as many people as I possibly can because I do it all the time. And this is the best way for me to get involved, truly involved in the work of the Lord on a grander space, but also for myself to learn the deep things of the gospel, the history of the church. Because again, I was only service reading a lot of this stuff because I was just listening to it while I was going to work, and then all of a sudden, and I would be talking to, like, you got this wrong, you know, how can you say that? Whenever I was listening to the curriculum, so this helps me dive deep into the curriculum so that I can really get become one with the those that God called as his true messengers here on this earth. Anyway, let's go ahead and uh, do this here. Oops.
of a little cabin where I'm here in Harmony, Pennsylvania, outside of a little cabin where Joseph and Emma Smith made their first home together as a married couple. And it's in this cabin where the first phase of the translation of the Book of Mormon took place. Joseph, with his wife Emma acting as scribe and Martin Harris assisting, produced the earliest manuscript of the Book of Mormon. Unfortunately, this phase of translation...
Again, Emma Smith is very busy with everything. She's with the house chores and with everything else. And the fact that Joseph Smith is not doing anything with the farming and stuff like that enough to sustain them, she's probably working outside of the home in a lot of ways to find some way to bring in income, that because Joseph Smith is engaged with his work. And so they of course petition Martin Harris to come out and help them, because that Martin Harris supported Joseph Smith once he found out about the plates, that he was helping them when Joseph Smith received plates to hide the plates in various places. All right, so he's very much so Martin Harris is somebody that they feel that they can trust, and they give and he's, again, Martin Harris has enough income, enough money, that he is somebody that can support it, and they know that he can support it. And of course, you go to the Lord on these things too. So again, they petitioned Martin Harris to come and help with the, and then Martin Harris and his wife Lucy, and I think Lucy moves back to Palmyra after a while, but they come out and they find a residence in Harmony, Pennsylvania, again demonstrating he's got money, so that they can help with the work.
Ends in disaster. The manuscript is lost, and even today, we don't know where it is. We're going to take the next few minutes to explore a little bit about the circumstances where the manuscript was lost, how it was lost, and even maybe what was on the manuscript itself. My name is Casey Griffiths, and I love learning about church history. Join me as we travel the world and explore the history of the Latter-day Saints. This is Restoration Revealed. Sometime after receiving the plates from the Hill Cumorah, Joseph moved to Harmony, Pennsylvania to avoid persecution. It was here that he was finally able to really start translating. Here you'll find Emma's father's home, Joseph and Emma's home, a cemetery, and the priesthood restoration site.
Actually, me and my family, me, my wife and my son, the only one that's in the church still, we actually went back there last year with Barbara Morgan, who's got her own thing going on YouTube. She's really knowledgeable about things, and she again, we went to these places, and you really get a feeling of what kind of labor there is in just getting from place to place. I mean, we're riding in buses and conveniences, and when you walk around these places, you're like, man, this is a lot of walking when you have to get out of the bus. And you can only imagine what kind of commitment a person has to do so much labor, and then to labor in the work of the Lord. That shows a great amount of commitment.
Joseph Smith and his scribes, chiefly Martin Harris, translate for several months until they produced a pretty healthy-sized manuscript. Although we normally refer to this as the 116 pages, recent research suggests that it was much more than that. And they knew they would have a natural stopping point because Emma Smith was going to give birth to her first child. So knowing that they were going to have to stop, Martin Harris asked Joseph Smith if he could take the manuscript back to his home in Palmyra, New York. Martin had sacrificed a lot to translate. He was a successful farmer, but he didn't attend their planting season. He may have also missed his daughter's wedding. He needed to show his family that it wasn't for nothing. Joseph Smith was incredibly apprehensive about this. According to his own history, he asked the Lord once He asked the Lord twice and was told no both times. But the third time he asked the Lord says yes, if Martin will covenant to only show the manuscript to 4 people and to keep it under lock and key the rest of the time. So with a great amount of apprehension, Joseph Smith watches Martin Harris go up the road with the manuscript, not knowing what's going to happen.
Again, this video demonstrates, again, this guy has a world of information about the history of the church. He studies this all the time. All right, this is his platform, and his credentials at where he teaches at BYU. I believe he's a teacher at BYU, professor. You can look that up. But again, he knows the same history that everybody else does about the church, and he's not leaving the church for what he knows in the history. So there's something in the history of the church that is actually tying him to the church. All right? Because if he's exposing to himself all the things that are, what would you say, are condemning of Joseph Smith and the work, then he would know about that. And why would he stay in a place that is going to condemn his very soul? He doesn't seem like a man that would want to carry on with a fraud and to expose him and his family to an eternal torment in hell. All right? So why is he still a member of the church when he knows all the particulars of polygamy and Mount Meadows massacre and all these other things that have put a stain on the church's reputation for good reason, because he knows the history. All right. And because he knows the history intimately, he's able to show that it proves to him that there's too many complexities that demonstrates that Joseph Smith is not creating a con or creating a elaborate scheme to gain money or fame or anything else, or women, as some people would say. But so anyway, let's continue to watch the video.
While they're waiting for Martin to send any kind of communication, disaster strikes. Here in the cemetery, right near Joseph and Emma's home, is a little tiny headstone that long ago fell over, then was taken, propped up, and placed into a more permanent marker. The headstone reads, "In memory of an infant son of Joseph and Emma Smith, June 15th, 1828. That's right when Martin is in Palmyra with the manuscript. Emma gives birth, the baby dies, and then Emma almost dies too. So for 2 weeks, Joseph Smith is at his wife's bedside, making sure that she's okay and unable to check on the status of the manuscript. Finally, at the end of those 2 weeks, Emma is the one who tells Joseph he needs to go to Palmyra and he needs to find out what's happened to the manuscript. She says that her family can take care of her, and Joseph leaves to try and find out the status of
Emma Smith, again, I love this part of it, demonstrates that she believes that Joseph Smith is a prophet of God. So much so that even after losing a child and only being 2 weeks out from that tragedy, that she's willing to say, Joseph, you need to depart. This is her only security in life. Now, she's got family and they love her. But I mean, when you're married, there's a different relationship there compared to having your mom or your dad or anybody else around. Again, and if Joseph Smith is demonstrating some kind of elaborate scheme to gain from this, then she would have said, look, you need to give up on this elaborate scheme. It's not bringing us anything good. I just lost my baby. Why, we can't, because obviously if she loses the baby, all right, then she would, and Joseph Smith is schemed up this elaborate scheme, all right, And she's like, your work is of the devil. This would have been the normal thing if she's a part of the conspiracy. She says, your work is of the devil. God took my baby away. It's all your fault. You need to stop and repent. That would be the natural reaction from a woman who just lost her child, if she was part of a scheme, an elaborate scheme to gain from. All right. But her reaction is completely opposite of that, saying, Joseph, all the work that we've done together and Martin Harris has done, where is it? It's been gone for 2 weeks. We haven't heard nothing from anybody. Now, you can travel, it takes a couple of days, a week of travel or whatever, but, again, they're feeling uncomfortable. There's something inside of them saying there's something wrong with this situation. She feels the need of sending Joseph Smith to go find out what's going on. I mean, if this is a hoax, they probably like, well, we're done with that, but they're not. They're all in. They're putting, again, effort compared to reward is skewed heavily. All right. And so they're not getting any reward out of this work that they're doing. Not physically. Again, they just lost a child, and Emma Smith's natural reaction is not to say we got to stop this scheme because the Lord has demonstrated that He's angered by us and we lost our child. No, she does the opposite. Says, Joseph, this work is so important. You need to go find out what's going on with the papers. Right? Just food for thought.
Martin and the manuscript that he has with him. Joseph then travels north, back up to Palmyra, where his family lived near Martin Harris. We are now at the Smith family farm, where years earlier, Joseph had seen God the Father and Jesus Christ, as well as the angel Moroni. Right here is the Smith family frame home. Alvin Smith started building this for his parents before he passed away in 1823. And this is the spot the Smiths were living in when the whole episode with the lost manuscript happens. When he gets here, immediately sends one of his brothers to go and get Martin Harris, whose farm is about a mile down the road from here. Joseph would have been in this home the next morning when Martin Harris shows up several hours late. They would have watched through the windows as Martin paces back and forth in front of the fence, opening the gate, shutting the gate, according to Lucy Mack Smith. And this is when they start to realize that something must have gone wrong. Martin comes in, sits down. There's a few moments of awkward silence.
Again, this part of the story demonstrates that something's wrong. Something is really wrong. Again, Martin Harris is not comfortable at all of coming in or coming to join them for breakfast that they've offered him. 4 hours has passed since the invitation was set. 8 o'clock, be here. We're going to be making breakfast. 4 hours later, he finally shows up at noon. And Martin Harris, being a farmer, he's up before the crack of dawn, and he's always hungry. As a farmer, you're hungry if you've been laboring, but he can't even find himself, to be able to eat in this story. So again, there's all these things that are pointing to a real situation that it seems to be dire enough that he's lost his appetite. And farmers don't lose their appetite.
Silence, and then he starts to weep and explains that the manuscript is gone and he doesn't know where it is. Joseph Smith, in response, jumps up and says, "My soul is lost. What have I done? I've broken the compact I made with the Lord." And this is where the bad news first arrives, that the manuscript of the Book of Mormon is gone. Eventually, Joseph Smith would begin a second attempt of translating the Book of Mormon, this time with Oliver Cowdery as the scribe. And the rest of that story is history, except for one detail. Whatever happened to the lost manuscript? We're back in Utah at Scripture Central headquarters. We're going to meet with Don Bradley, who has done extensive research on the lost manuscript. Some of this will surprise you.
Now, I remind you, Don Bradley left the church. He was, and there's great videos out there. You got to watch his testimony. But he had was started looking into the history of the church when he was a teenager and really got involved in it. And then all of a sudden, he finds things that disrupts him, and he leaves the church. But he says in those interviews that he never stopped researching the history of the church. And then when he started to really, then once he got to a certain point, he's like, wait a minute. This stuff is real. This stuff is true. This stuff is actually happening right there before my eyes, that there's a lot of moving parts, as I have said before, over and over. But there's too many moving parts that does not show an elaborate scheme, but a real connection back to God by this one called Joseph Smith. And then he again is and he was took his names off the record, off the church records, and so he's rebaptized and he returns back to the church. So again, he demonstrates that if you just read the surface of the history of the church, then you can fall into a trap where you have not researched it enough, and then it makes it really hard for you to stay in the church.
Don, thanks for being here with us. We get to talk about kind of a unique subject today, which is the lost manuscript of the Book of Mormon. We brought you in because you wrote a book called The Lost 116 Pages, Reconstructing the Book of Mormon's Missing Stories. Do we have any idea what happened to the manuscript? Is there any direction you can point us in?
It turns out that Martin initially suspects that his wife, Lucy Harris, took the manuscript. He never thinks, based on his own accounts, that she burned it. He thought that she hid it or gave it to someone else, right? He actually pretty quickly becomes, or at least within several years, he becomes quite convinced she did not take it. Why? Martin told his son repeatedly that on her deathbed, Lucy Harris denied having been involved with the manuscript theft, knowing where the manuscript was. And one thing that we do know about Lucy Harris is she was a devout Quaker. And one of the key expectations of Quakers is they will not lie. And so the idea, first of all, that a devoutly religious woman would go to meet her God with this lie on her lips is a stretch, okay? In fact, it was understood at this time in common law that someone who gave a testimony on their deathbed, that was considered to be very weighty, legally admissible testimony. Because the idea was people will not lie on their deathbeds when they're going to meet God. The idea that a devout Quaker would do that seems even more difficult to swallow, right? And so Martin and Lucy Harris did not get along. They had separated by the time that she died, right? Yeah. So Martin Harris did not have some rosy view of Lucy Harris, but he knew her well enough to know that she was very devout. And so her deathbed testimony denying that she knew what had happened to that manuscript convinced him that she was not the one who had taken the manuscript. And so there are other reasons to doubt that Lucy Harris was the culprit. It's possible she's involved obliquely, but she denies she knows what happened to the manuscript, right? In the end, at least. I identify other sort of suspects, one of which is actually the Harris' son-in-law. So when the daughter, Lucy, gets married in May 1828, she marries a guy named Flanders Dyke, who it turns out is from a family of swindlers. They do a number of swindles in upstate New York right around.
So again, Don Bradley has demonstrated that he's not just looking into Joseph Smith and finding out all the faults that he can about Joseph Smith or all the positive things about Joseph Smith that he can find to to believe in Joseph Smith or one or the other. He's just finding facts. Okay. And again, it's so important that if you're going to use entries to journals from those who hated Joseph Smith and called him a fraud, then you need to look into their background and see if there was anything to gain by their statement. That's the important part of that. You can't just say, you can't just, what would you say, um, look at Joseph Smith and his failures, and then use statements by those who are antagonists towards Joseph Smith and say, well, this proves that Joseph Smith was a fraud because these people are saying that very thing. You have to investigate those who are making those accusations in the same way that you're uh, uh, um, uh, investigating the failures of Joseph Smith. You need to find out if these other people are credible when they're making their statements about Joseph Smith. All right. If you don't, then again, you're only reaching for one conclusion. All right. So you got to exercise good common sense that you are actually engaged in investigating everything and not just what you want to find as uh, find because it fits your desire better. It better fits where you want to be, right? If you're going to be honest about these things, you have to be honest, right?
Around this time. And so there are reasons to suspect this character, he actually had previously stolen the Anthon transcript, according to Lucy Mack Smith. So his shady character who's stealing documents related to the coming forth of the Book of Mormon, why not the Lost Pages, right? There are also treasure diggers who felt that they had a right to the gold plates, who had tried to steal the gold plates. There are also suspects here. They've been trying to steal the plates. Why not steal the manuscript that's produced from those plates?
Yeah.
Did the manuscript survive? Did it survive very long? Was it destroyed at some point early on?
Visited someone's attic right
Right.
now.
So I actually do have a source from about 50 years after the manuscript theft where someone who was a reputable non-Latter-day Saint in that area who said he knew exactly where the manuscript was and that it was nearby. And so that I find interesting, right? Because it does at least suggest that the manuscript had survived a half century. If it survived a half century, it could have kept surviving. Goodness knows where it'd be. Yeah, like you're saying, maybe in someone's attic. If it's out there, I suspect that the person who has it doesn't know what they have. And I would think that if it was still out there, that it would have surfaced by now. But if there's some reason to think it had survived for a good while after the theft, and it would just be the coolest.
It'd be nice to have the manuscript in some ways, but I think because the manuscript is no longer with us, it creates, what would you say, it creates more interest in the story surrounding the lost manuscript, the story that connects all these different people uh, uh, in such a way that you have those who are antagonizers against the church that are demonstrating that they themselves are, especially Lucy Harris, who's demonstrating herself, who's an antagonizer towards Martin Harris and Joseph Smith, that even she has a revelation that she said she received that she needed to support the work. All right. So it draws us in, or it's drawing me in to really find a lot of information about these different characters that were part of this of the Lost Pages. And as I dive in more and more, I'm finding out that that again, I don't need these things um, uh, to to help me know that Joseph Smith was a prophet of God. I don't need those. But it again, what it gives me is an opportunity to talk about them here and to give you some other insights about the situation that was going on at the time, and maybe that you might take this information and go share it with your friends and or whoever you are associated with, uh, so that you have something to conversate about. And again, it's this is about waking up with the Lord. This is about getting connected and getting the yoke cinched up tight, so that when we face the trials that will come our way uh, day by day, and that we are that we are uh, carried along in those moments by our Father in heaven, Jesus Christ, because we have prayed and studied with the Lord that morning, and it carries us through the rest of the day. Anyway, let's continue on with the video here.
Thing ever if it were found. Um, I am certainly hopeful that it's out there.
Well, let's pivot to another interesting thing you do in your book, which are there are some sources that talk about the content of the lost manuscript, like what it actually said. We know a few things from Joseph, like it's Mormon's abridgment,
Right.
that it covers the first half of the Book of Mormon, and he calls it the Book of Lehi
Right.
in the preface of the Book of Mormon. What else do we know about what's in the manuscript?
So Emma says that she's amazed that he could have translated this, that he was very undereducated,
Yeah,
right? And so
yeah.
as examples of this, she notes that when the name Sariah was mentioned first in the book, he doesn't know how to pronounce it. And she has to help him pronounce the name. He spells it out, and then she has to pronounce it for him. She also notes that when the translation mentioned the walls of Jerusalem, he suddenly seemed shocked and said, Emma, did Jerusalem have walls?
Yeah.
And she told him yes. And then he calmed down and he said, oh, I thought I'd been deceived, right? So he's translating, he's like, that doesn't seem right. I didn't think Jerusalem had walls, right? So
Again, this information that is written down in her journal, and I'd like to see what year that journal was produced. I'm going to go on my phone real quick here, uh, just to see here what year did Emma Smith write her journal? And let's see. Independence, Missouri, 2 years before Joseph's death, Emma wrote in 1842, answering his request to leave Nauvoo and go north with him to escape the charges. So, and basically in 1842, so she's writing this much later than in time about what was going on. So she's taking this from memory, but I'm sure she's been asked questions or uh, been harassed about Joseph Smith in the Book of Mormon. And she's like, and she's probably telling these stories to people, saying that Joseph Smith wasn't a person of of intelligence, that he was asking different questions and demonstrating that he himself is not um, capable of writing. She says that he couldn't even pen a well-formed letter to her. All right. And if you look at the journal that he tried to write for himself, it he scratches out many of he tries to write, but then he basically gives up after a while, you know.
The significance she sees in this is Joseph doesn't really know his Bible. He doesn't know how to pronounce, this name and so on. He's unlearned, so he couldn't have produced this on his own. Another significance that it has for us is she's actually giving us the exact clues we need to know where she was scribing for him. What part were they translating together?
Right. She talks about Jerusalem, talks about walls around Jerusalem.
And then where would the name Sariah have first been mentioned in the text? At the very beginning of the narrative. And so what this does is it pegs for us where Emma was scribing for the translation. It's at the very beginning of the book. We have multiple accounts of statements that Joseph Smith made where he gives just like a little nugget from the lost pages. Joseph Smith was once asked in Nauvoo if Lehi was a descendant of Manasseh, why would the Book of Mormon be the stick of Ephraim? And what Franklin D. Richards overheard Joseph Smith answering about this is, he said, if we had those pages that Martin Harris lost, then you would see that it says that Ishmael, whose daughters marry Lehi's sons, was a descendant of Ephraim. So the Book of Mormon peoples were not only of Manasseh, they're also of Ephraim. And so that's how he's tying it to that prophecy. Right?
Stick of Joseph.
Right. And so we know Joseph himself remembered some details from the lost manuscript. Fortunately, there are other.
Okay. So think about it this way. Joseph Smith is using the Bible and creating prophecies within the Book of Mormon and other places so he can show this elaborate scheme about, look, this book is from Ephraim and this is the book of Ephraim because the book of the stick of Joseph and the stick of Ephraim and the stick of Judah. So, then why would he, eventually he explains it, but if he is got great memory, it's written in the pages of the Book of Mormon, I believe. I can't remember specifically, but I don't know. I don't even know if it's in there or not now that I'm thinking about it. But anyway, so he's read this thing in Ezekiel 37, says that the book of Ephraim and the book of Judah would become one in one man's hand. And so he comes up with this elaborate scheme that he's going to produce a book that is from Ephraim. But yet, nowhere in the book does it mention that the family that is from Israel coming to the Americas is of the tribe of Ephraim. They're a tribe of Manasseh. Boy, what again, it demonstrates that Joseph Smith is either a complete ignorant fool when he's doing this Book of Mormon. And so if an ignorant fool is orating this book, it's impossible for him to do it. He's not smart enough to do it. And not keep again, if he can't hold that position where Ephraim is the one that is mentioned in the Bible about the second book, and he puts Manasseh in the Book of Mormon, then again, he demonstrates that he doesn't have a good memory, that he's not capable. But if it's the Lord who is empowering him, then obviously that's what happened. We know that. Then we can say that in the book of Lehi, or the records that there was something in there that demonstrated that Ephraim was the Ishmael was part of the tribe of Ephraim, and that's how it becomes the book of Ephraim in that way. But anyway, just kind of throwing in some meat there.
Witnesses who talk some about what was in the lost pages. Martin Harris had a brother, Emer, right, who lays out about how many people were in Mulek's group that escaped from the Babylonian invasion, who they were, and so on. He would have this information because his brother scribed for that part of the text, right? We have accounts from other people who were close associates of Martin Harris. So Martin does seem to have talked about it. Now again, I haven't found a source yet where somebody says, okay, Martin Harris, tell me everything you remember, what's in the lost pages. I hope somebody did that. If so, it's in, somebody's journal or something. But nonetheless, we have bits and pieces that he tells different people. We have an extensive interview that was done by Fayette Lapham early in 1830. They're living in Palmyra. They're hearing the buzz about this book that's about to come out. But the book's still at press. They can't read it yet. They show up at the Joseph Smith Sr. house, right, looking for information. Joseph Jr. is now living back down in Pennsylvania, so they talk to Joseph Sr. He gives them an extensive recitation of the coming forth of the Book of Mormon, some aspects of which we can tell are clearly garbled, right, when we compare them with other information, but some aspects of which are so spot on, they match accounts that we have that weren't published until long after Fayette Lapham's account was published. So we know the guy had inside information because there's no other way he could know these things. Fayette Lapham not only reports from Joseph Smith Sr. details of the coming forth of the Book of Mormon, then he starts launching into the actual narrative of the Book of Mormon. And a lot of it's familiar narrative, right? Well, there's this guy, God speaks to this ancient Israelite, and God leads him on a sort of exodus.
Anyway, watch the rest of the video. It's really good information. We're just about to the end here. Again, I really appreciate those who have joined me today. And again, this really, Don Bradley is talking about things that are not well known in the church, and maybe these things are connecting to you. You've got to watch his other interviews. He's great people. I've had some correspondence with him through Messenger. I hope someday that he will join me. I haven't, again, I tried to get him and another person to come on and have a discussion with me, because one had lost their faith because of the history, and the other one, and Don Bradley, having that experience would, kind of help that situation out, maybe, because she's good people, it's but again, it really comes down again to lifestyle and what we are seeking after in our as we are seeking after the things of the Lord. Do we desire to live a life that where the law is, what would you say, is the very tool that we use to really bind our families together? Because you cannot in a society have anarchy in any way and think that you're going to be able to sustain a life, a society. And whenever you have a family that is supposed to join themselves to God someday, well, guess what? There's no anarchy in God's kingdom. That we all have to be one with him, that we cannot be divided in any way. And this right here is our proving ground in many ways of demonstrating that that connection back to God, and a connection to our willingness to follow his laws and his commandments here. If we can follow his laws and commandments here in our mortal existence, how much greater will our reward be when we get there? Again, proving ourselves here. Anyway, so I appreciate those who've joined me. I really appreciate those who will watch me later. And again, subscribe to this channel, leave a comment. If you want to share time with me on Zoom, please let me know. You can find those links where you can get a hold of me or down below. Also, you can join me tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be maybe an early morning, don't know. Got to figure out what my schedule is from day to day. So I try to, because I got two friends out at work that are that are associates of mine that when they're not there, then I have to change my schedule. So anyway, it's been a great day. Like I said, like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel, and also leave a comment And if you want to join me at any time on Zoom, and I wish people would, because it would make this content so much better. And I know the church is true. I know that Joseph Smith was a prophet of God. I know that he saw the Father and the Son, and therefore I have confidence, full confidence, that I have a Father in heaven that loves me and truly gave his only begotten Son uh, on my behalf because of my demonstration that I cannot be uh, with him without the grace of Jesus Christ. And I say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. And you guys have a great day and enjoy the day with the Lord always.